Whoever said ignorance is bliss never ran a business. Did you know the vast majority of businesses don't make their products accessible to people with disabilities? And did you know that the collective buying power of people with disabilities is over $2 trillion? And if you're a business owner, you need to know how to make your business accessible so you're not leaving this money on the table. I want to Whoever said ignorance is bliss never ran a business. Did you know the vast majority of businesses don't make their products accessible to people with disabilities? And did you know that the collective buying power of people with disabilities is over $2 trillion? And if you're a business owner, you need to know how to make your business accessible so you're not leaving this money on the table. I want to tell you about my family partners at Real Life Access, who can help you connect with this underserved market. Real Life Access clients experience three amazing things. First, a reputation for accessibility that brings customers to your door. Second, a freedom of worry about legal consequences from not being ADA compliant. And third, increased revenue. Real Life Access team. We are honored to invite you to the 4th annual Mission for Healthy Heroes on February 22nd, 2025. This day-long event is dedicated to serving those who serve us, focusing on the invisible battles our heroes face: mental health, homelessness, and reintegration challenges. Over the past 3 years, we've shared stories of resilience and hope. This year, we're amplifying our mission, spotlighting 4 incredible organizations that are making a real impact. The donations and sponsorships will go to helping these groups, providing critical resources. We are honored to invite you to the 4th annual Mission for Healthy Heroes on February 22nd, 2025. This day-long event is dedicated to serving those who serve us, focusing on the invisible battles our heroes face: mental health, homelessness, and reintegration challenges. Over the past 3 years, we've shared stories of resilience and hope. This year, we're amplifying our mission, spotlighting 4 incredible organizations that are making a real impact. The donations and sponsorships will Good day, everyone. It's Zach Clayton with Community Pay It Forward, Community Dare to Care, and the PAC channels. Welcome to Footprints Forward. We are starting season 3 right now. Granted, this is kind of we are going back and we're watching some very important information from the previous couple years, and we will get back to full force on February 3rd, leading up to our Mission for Healthy Heroes on February 22nd, Saturday, February 22nd. Right now, we do want to make sure that you understand that, look, time is very limited. Get your space that you want by scanning this code. You become a sponsor, you get to pick the hours that you want to be a sponsor, okay? There are certain hours that are set aside for the platinum sponsors. There's certain hours that are set aside for gold sponsors. There are certain hours that are set aside for people who just want to sponsor a quarter of an hour. None of them are bad hours. Don't think that, because we are coast to coast, from end to end, from everywhere to everywhere. This is so important to talk about. These are situations where there are people out there right now who are suffering and they're looking for something new. If we can introduce them to something new, maybe those thoughts of suicide are going to disappear. Maybe they're going to dissipate a little bit. Maybe they're going to go away, and we can lessen some of the numbers. I don't want to use finality words like stop or prevent, or we can lessen. We can give them alternatives. We can find solutions to problems. That's what we need to do. Again, the QR code above my shoulder right now is the QR code. And just to let you know, this interview that we're going to be doing with Dr. Philip Agras is the QR code is going to stay on the screen, but it's going to be down here instead. So it's going to be on your screen. So this entire time that this is going on, you're going to be able to watch it. Our guest for today, the replay of this show is going to be, as I mentioned before, Dr. Philip Agras, who's going to tell us about his program that deals with problems that you may have in order to, see things in a different direction. Okay. He's got a very, very specific program to where, everything happens for a reason. This is true. We all know that everything happens for a reason. So what he is trying to do is make sure that everybody understands that reason does not have to be, look, you don't have to live a way that you're living just because. Okay, so let's make sure that you get out there, you do your best, and we take and we live our best lives. So again, this is a really good friend of mine, and I appreciate his time. I appreciate what his program, and I cannot wait until he joins us on February 23rd. I am so sorry, 22nd, February 22nd, for our program, A Mission for Healthy Heroes. We are honored to invite you to the 4th annual Mission for Healthy Heroes on February 22nd, 2025. This day-long event is dedicated to serving those who serve us, focusing on the invisible battles our heroes face: mental health, homelessness, and reintegration challenges. Over the past 3 years, we've shared stories of resilience and hope. This year, we're amplifying our mission, spotlighting 4 incredible organizations that are making a real impact. The donations and sponsorships will go to helping these groups, providing critical resources to all of our heroes, both country and community. You can help too. Share your story, partner with us, or become a sponsor. Every contribution counts, whether it's time, funds, or spreading the word. Join us on February 22nd for a day of hope, healing, and change, because helping one hero means helping us all. For more information, visit the website or contact Zach Clayton at zach@communitypayitforward.us. Once again, that's Zach, Z-A-K, at communitypayitforward.us.
And on that
Special gift.
transcend. And well, a little background, I used to be a chiropractor and a functional medicine practitioner. My specialty was thyroid and autoimmune disease. And during the process of my 35 years in practice, I was able to stumble across that we were actually born with a trait that actually protects us from the very things that we want to get done, that success that we're looking for. But because subconsciously it's more painful to sustain it or to even achieve it, that we go back doing the same thing over and over again and never getting to that point and thinking that there's something wrong with us, and it isn't. They're just in a protection. So I called it the inborn sabotaging trait. Again, not undermining you, but it's just protecting you. And when I first found it, I thought it was too simple. So I went out to try to disprove it. And over 30 years researching thousands and thousands of people, not only was able to prove it, I found a way to switch it off instantly, and it works 100% of the time. So when people use the T now, we actually show them it's impossible to self-sabotage.
What's the first thing that you're able to diagnose or help somebody get through? What's the first thing that you need them to, like, their first self-realization?
The first realization is for them to understand what this saboteur is that they were born with. You are actually born with it. That's what our research shows. And then all the other situations and all the traumas and experiences and everything else that you go through from childhood all the way to the present day is all there to help you to understand how to move forward, how to understand how you're protecting yourself from these situations, whether they're people, whatever, and then from there move past it with what we found was the T-Now method. So in our membership, what we found is that people would immediately get a little mini course, get their inborn sabotaging trait and antidote. They'll understand why they've done what they've done in the past, why they're doing it now, and why they'll continue to do it in the future when a challenge comes their way that they can't handle.
Can you give me an example of something that somebody may have been born with?
So one of the things is one of the saboteurs is somebody who is overly giving. They give too much. They focus on everybody else's feelings, not their own, and they feel selfish if they focus on themselves. And after a while, when they give, and people don't reciprocate, they can become resentful, and they will start saying, you know what, you've taken advantage of me, I'm done with you, whatever the case may be. And then they will go to the other extreme and take for themselves. But because they feel that being guilty, then they will go back and overly give. So that particular saboteur needs to understand how to give and take in a more balanced way for the rest of their lives. Another one is someone who's scattered. They're all over the place. They wing it. They can't get tasks done. They have a hard time. They have a hard time, they don't like people telling them what to do. And then what happens is they can go to the extreme where they can get hyper focused because they waited to the last minute and now they got to get this thing done. And they have a time distortion, like, hey, honey, I'll be out in 5 minutes, and 5 hours later they emerge. And after they get it done, they go, "Whew, finally." And then they realize they didn't do any time management. Now they're all over the place because they have so much other stuff they did. They didn't focus on that. And now they're back and forth, scattered and hyper-focused. And then the last one, because there's only 3 saboteurs, it's a person who doesn't express themselves. They overprocess things. People don't know what they're thinking or feeling. And they have a really hard time verbally expressing themselves. And they have a hard time confronting because they don't want to feel stupid, so they pull back and listen more. And then they can go to the other extreme, like a pressure cooker, and they can explode, or to a point where they're still in their shell and they'll under their breath tell somebody they're an idiot. They still don't know, and that person still doesn't know what that person's feeling, and then they go back in their shell. So they have a hard time expressing, or they overexpress in that end of it. So those three saboteurs is what one of you are born with, and how that expresses in such a way that causes you to protect yourself.
What about something like addictive? When you grow up, there's like addictive traits in families, or is this not something that we can put into the born with classifications?
So when I was a functional medicine practitioner, one of the things I found, someone would come up to me and go, you're going to kill me. I'm like, what you do now? And they would go, I had a pizza. And I was like, yeah, so? Well, I had a lot of pain. I said, how long has it been? Like 4 days. And I said, I'm okay you eating that pizza because I want you to realize it caused you the 4 days of pain. But I'm more curious, what was the trigger that you didn't want to deal with? That subconsciously those 4 days of pain were less painful than dealing with that trigger. And over time, what we found was that when people didn't deal with that trigger, they would use their saboteur, which would then lead them to their numbing agents, whether it was drugs, to eating, overeating, sex, to whatever they needed to numb themselves. And then what we found by working with us, once we showed them the TNOW method, two things happened. They lessened their numbing agents, or they stopped them, which allowed us to have higher success rates because people weren't consistently aggravating their condition, so they were able to heal more effectively.
So what about what does the TNOW method do for people who continue to pile on? How does it stop for people who are now not dealing with the initial problem, but they're also continuing to pile stuff on? How does the TNOW method help them?
Yeah, because the reason why they're piling it on, well, depending on what their saboteur, like one of them could be that it's focusing on your like chaos. Like chaos is constantly bringing more stuff in because that stimulates your brain. All right. If I don't stimulate my brain, the chaos doesn't, causes a problem for me. Right. So in that moment, what you want to do is understand that I am not dealing with certain things because it's more painful on a subconscious level. So people should write this question down: is why am I protecting myself at this moment in time? Right? Why am I protecting myself? Not that I'm stupid, I'm an idiot, I have this imposter syndrome, I'm not good enough. It all comes down to just this one thing. And that's why it took me 30 years to really try to figure this out. To that, it comes down to that simplicity. And so when they keep on piling things on, it's they're trying to motivate themselves to keep on moving forward, or they're trying to please somebody else because they have a hard time saying no, or they're not expressing to people that I can't do this. So they take on more because they don't want to feel stupid or embarrassed.
Yeah. One of the things, Doc, that you really, really like to focus on and you really felt strongly about as you were building the TNOW method was veterans. Can you explain the practice and how this affects the veteran?
So, yeah, I always felt veterans got the short end of the stick. We'll just keep it that way.
Very, very political and polite way of saying
Yeah.
that. Yes.
So what I wanted to do was I wanted to help them, and I had opportunities. So I've had military business owners take my course. We have also, not only do we have a membership, but we have a premium coaching program. And I remember the first PTSD veteran that I had, the first week when he understood the TNOW method, there's a thing called the antidote we talk about. The antidote is the exact opposite to the TNOW method. And by doing so, it lets us to help them to understand this is what you need to do to get past your self-sabotage. So one of the things was that I told them, take this antidote and give it to your therapist. Within a few weeks, by working with it and helping them to get very specific what was going on, he was making major breakthroughs that he's never made before. I had another gentleman who had a brain injury through combat, and he would have very high, intense PTSD episodes. Within the first week of using his antidote, the TNOW method, he was able to neutralize them pretty quickly, and he was blown away by it as well as I was. And he's been in the program for a while, and he's done very, very well, where he sees his triggers, he sees this. See, one of the things I want to let people know, we don't get rid of your saboteur. It'd be stupid too, because it's your protector, okay? So you don't want it not to protect you. So we helped you to learn how to dance with it quicker so that it's not affecting you for 3 weeks or 3 months. It's only affecting you maybe for an hour or less or a few minutes. And then you're able to shift it moving forward, depending on how severe that reaction is.
Yeah, because you're talking about something I guess in layman's terms, you're talking about something that could be classified as like a fear, and fear is a built-in protection.
Yeah.
When you have a fear of something, that's there to make sure that you stay away from it, and so that's what a lot of this is. Um, One of the other things that you and I have talked about before, Doc, is that as I say all the time on the 22-hour podcast, which is coming up February 22nd, make sure you're here. But one of the things that you also agree with is there's not one single person that goes through trauma. There's not one single person who goes through the recovery and all the problems with the recovery. This is a family thing. The PTSD doesn't just strike one person in the household, it strikes everybody. The TNOW method can help out everyone.
Yeah, and that's what's the cool part of it was with this the last gentleman we talked about. His wife and his child was getting affected, and once he started to deal with it, he understood not only his sequence and why he sabotaged himself. He understood his child as well as his wife, and we were able to show them how each of them were able to work with each other, and instead of conflicting, knowing, okay, you're going through this. I know why you're going through it, not because I'm taking it personally. I'm just reacting. I'm protecting myself from you. See, a lot of times we've helped many people, even with divorces, where we've helped people stop divorce. We're not a therapist. We don't do that, right? But it's just where people realize that they didn't hate each other. They just were in protection of each other, and that was the key. And once they understood this is what the reason they were going through it allowed them to kind of lessen their conflict and help them to come together more as one than opposing each other.
Here on your page, we've got, and this comes directly from your website, but it's some examples of people that you can help, or maybe you're trying to connect with your teenager or feeling like they're drifting away. All of us who have had teenagers understand exactly what you're talking about there. My son, who is in Japan every once in a while, has these problems where he, because there's that distance, he feels alone, in which in a way he is. Of course, we always want to make sure he doesn't think he's alone. Maybe you're walking on eggshells with your partner. One wrong word will spark another argument. Overload yourself with work. That's something that any of us nowadays, that's just one of the things that I truly believe. My wife and we've had to have conversations about that last one, because I am very much a person who, when I do things, I want to win a prize for them. Okay. When I smoked 3 packs a day. When I drank more than anybody else around me. When I turned all my concentration and all my attention to work, I worked more than anybody else. I was working 24 hours a day.
Mhm.
So, those are just examples of how people can take, and, good or bad, things can become problems, right?
Absolutely. It depends on why you're doing it for. And so one of the things is there's two other traits that we call that are placed in what we call the protective sequence, and one of the traits is what we call your superpower. And a lot of times, your superpower, your dominant trait, trips you up. So what you think you're doing, and it's I got to give, I got to connect, I got to give, this and this. It's actually causing you to harm yourself and not be as efficient. But in your mind, you're thinking that this is what's the best, because if I don't do this in this amount of time, people are going to be mad at me, or whatever
Hmm.
the the thought process, from whether that was mom, dad, your siblings, or whomever in the past telling you that, because at that moment, that person represents the thousands of other people that were causing you a negative reaction. But those people are you, right? The person outside of you is you. The person you can't stand is you. They're just showing up to show a part of you that you can't deal with. Now, I hear a lot of people going, "There's no way that person's me," and we will show people all the time their characteristics are bothering you because you are doing it to yourself, or you're doing it in a different way but the same kind of way to somebody else. And once they understand that and they realize it's their saboteur and how to shift it with their antidote, we've seen things shift pretty quickly. So it's pretty fun on that end of it. But it always comes down to what's going on with you. It's not that life is happening to you, it's happening from you, through you, and for you. And when you can see that, that's when you have that control, that you actually co-create what's happening. Now, there's a lot of people that are going to be telling me I'm an idiot, or they're not agreeing with me. I understand that. I was in the same situation as they were way back when. But when you prove it over and over and over again with thousands of people, you know that this is just how it is. And once you can realize that you have a say in what's happening to you, but the reason why it doesn't happen is because you don't know how to shift it.
I would also go so far as to say, look, this is a problem that a lot of people don't even realize that they've been experiencing. This is something that you've grown up with, and it's become a habit.
Hmm.
So you don't see it as a problem until it's caused too many problems in your life. And then you're kind of sitting there wondering, well, what the hell do I do now? Right?
Right. Yeah. Yeah, exactly. It's like, what's wrong with me? Why can't I do this? Or this is what I always do, or this is just who I am. Right? When people just say, well, this is just who I am, that's a way of saying I'm not ready to change, because the change is more hard than to actually just stay who I am. And the pain that I know is what I know. That if I change is a pain that I don't know. And subconsciously, that may be more painful. So I'll just stay where I'm at.
Let me ask you a question off what you just said. I have said for years, okay, as I mentioned before, I was smoking 3 packs a day when I put down my last cigarette. I still had 3 packs of cigarettes, and I still had 6 cigarettes in a pack. But I made the decision that I was done smoking at this time on this day, February 6th. I can give you the day. I can't remember what year it was, but
Mhm.
I can give you the day. But when I stopped, I knew I was done. I was done with it. I didn't want it anymore. I was done. There was no, I think I'm going to quit. If you go in thinking that you want to quit, there's more likelihood that you're going to fail. If you go in knowing I'm done, I am not doing this anymore,
Mhm.
that you're going to succeed, right?
When you say I think, maybe, probably, I
Hmm.
guess, what you say is what I'm about to tell you, I take no responsibility for. So let's do it with you. Say I'm I guess I'll try to stop drinking. Say that.
Now, I guess I'll try to stop drinking.
Now say, I'm stopping drinking today.
Yeah, I'm done drinking today.
Now see the difference?
Yeah.
The
Yeah.
first one,
Yeah.
there's no connection to it. You're not taking responsibility. If you don't take responsibility for something, you can't change it.
You've given yourself an out. You've
Right,
given
exactly.
look, it was a thought. I had a thought, it
Right.
didn't work. You've given yourself an excuse to quit.
Even if it's not your responsibility, by claiming this is not my responsibility, you take responsibility of it not being it. So therefore, you've taken control to walk away from the situation.
Yeah, and this is one of the reasons why all these business coaches and all the money coaches and everybody always tells you, no, you don't want to get there, you are there. This is the reason why people tell you all the time, you talk, you present yourself as if you are there, not I'm going to get there. You present yourself as I am there, right?
Yeah, there's an old philosopher back in, I think he's in the 20s, 30s, 19 somewhere. One of these days I got to remember what year it was, but his name was Neville Goddard, and my research kind of actually my research proved this, and he said that first you need to be clear of what you want. You have to act as if you have already received it. And then most importantly, you have to let go of the outcome. And what happens is if you're not clear, but you act as if you already have it, it's not going to be as much because you're not clear on it. If you don't let go of the outcome and you expect a certain outcome from this, you have already put resistance in it and you're not going to get it. So it's basically saying, this is what I want. I'm going to act as if I already have it, and then I'm going to let go of it, because a lot of times, as soon as you do this, it won't come true. Something will come in to say to you, are you sure? Because this is a fluke. Here's an opportunity to go back to the old you, and you're like, see, it doesn't work. I did this within the day, more crap came my way. Yeah, because it's trying to say, are you truly, really want to do this? Right? So you have to think that, but you got to let go of the outcome, which people don't. They feel that they have to try to control it. And it's like going down a river, knowing that the river is going to lead you to the ocean, right? It may take a day, it may depends on where you go in the river, or it can take you a year. I don't know, right? But if you just allow the river to take you, the universe, God, or whatever to take you, but it's up to you to shift so you don't hit a boulder. So
Right.
it's a combination of both being just letting it happen, but just kind of flowing and adapting to what's happening, and just say, you know what, I used to say when I was going through all the stuff that I went through was, I wonder what gift I'm getting, over and over and over again, and then realized one day I already got the gift. Right, going through the heartache and the stress or whatever, I had the gift. It was up to me to find out what that gift was, to use it as a benefit, to excel myself, to evolve instead of dissolve. See, evolving and dissolving happen at the exact same time. It's up to you which side of the coin you want to look at. So when things are falling apart, they're also falling together. Depends on where you want to look at it. So it's up to you what it is. They both happen at the exact same time, and they both happen within you. It's up to you what you want to tap into to show yourself in the world.
I think one of the things that I've really focused on, and one of the things that have made my life a lot easier for me, is I don't look back. I've made poor decisions in my life, and they were poor decisions. They were not mistakes. Okay. A mistake is, oops, the salt lid fell off the salt container, and now I've got salt water instead of, macaroni and cheese water. That's a mistake. Making a poor decision is making a poor decision. Looking back at things and understanding, okay, this was the poor decision I've made. Now, what do I learn from it? Where do I need to go to make sure I don't ever make another poor decision like this?
So I agree, and I also disagree with you, and something to
Okay.
think about differently. I don't believe in mistakes. I believe that I perfectly knocked the salt into the water because I wasn't focusing on that, right? So you perfectly, there's no mistakes because, or I made a decision that didn't work out. Well, because based on the knowledge that you had created that consequence, right? So it wasn't a mistake. It was just what you thought was you needed at that moment. It's kind of a different thought, isn't it? That if I make a different decision, I get a different consequence. So it kind of gives you a way of maneuvering it this way compared to going up. For instance, I always tell my clients, don't go, I need to do better. I got to improve. I got to work harder. No, right? Because that means you got to go up a hill. If you stop, what happens? I'm going to go down. But if you go, I'm going down this road and go, instead of I have to get better, I just got to what? Do it differently. I just go down this road. See how much easier,
Yeah.
less stress by going, all right, what can I do differently than I did last time? Not that I'm an idiot and what I did was bad. It was that I made the decision, didn't turn out. It turned out beautifully. You didn't think so, but it worked out beautifully because if you did it once, you can do it again. It will create the same consequence. How can I do it differently? It's a total different way. This way, you have now control over this compared to I feel I have to get better and something outside of me compared to tapping inside of me.
Yeah, I actually think that we were really pretty close there on what we were saying, just
Yeah,
different
no, I'm saying, no,
different
exactly.
terminology. Yeah, you're
It's
right
a
on the
different
mistakes
thought.
thing, but I don't consider things that I've done in the past mistakes. I consider them bad choices, poor decisions that I've learned from, and as long as I don't make that same decision, I consider myself improving every day
Right,
and
absolutely. Perfect.
learning from it
Yeah,
every day.
yeah,
And the day that you stop learning, let's be honest, Doc, the day that you stop learning, to me,
you're
that's the
dead.
day they're going to put me in a box. Is because if I
You're
haven't
dead.
stopped, if I close myself to learning, then I don't want to live anymore. Really,
Right,
I mean, I love learning. As for a kid who hated school as much as I did. I love to learn now. I
yeah,
absolutely love to learn. So, um, one of the advantages of the T Now method is without a doubt, and one of the things that I love, this is drug free. This is a drug free treatment. There is no medications here. You're not pushing pills. You're not pushing vitamins. None of that stuff. You're pushing brain and thought process. You're teaching self improvement. You're bringing to light the chance for self improvement. What are some of the other things, Doc, that T Now is really? What are some of the advantages? Some of the other advantages. I know there's a question there, and I swear to God, I speak English for a living.
yeah,
Sometimes
hey,
it's
you're
just
doing
not
beautiful.
today.
No judgment on this end. I understand. Um, One of the things is that a third of the population that we find needs mindset. The other two-thirds don't need mindset. That's why it doesn't work for everybody. The other third needs what we call heart set. They have to come from their heart, and the other one needs feel set. They need to come from their gut. So each saboteur governs each of those regions. So depending on your saboteur, you will then be shown how and what you need on that aspect of it. So that's one thing. The other thing is that as soon as you are not achieving certain things and you feel resistance, you're out of the flow, it's your saboteur protecting you. So if you get anything out of this today, those of you who are listening, number one, just say it's okay. It's okay. Whatever you're going through right now, it's okay. And the other thing is why am I protecting myself? What is happening that I feel that I have to react this way or not act this way to protect myself? So that's a different thought process. And you can think about, this is what happened when I was a kid, or, when I went to go through that divorce, this is the same type of situation or whatever. So it all depends on what that person's going through, that at that moment you're just in protection. That's really what I want you to really learn, everybody to learn from this, is that there isn't anything wrong with you. You're just protecting yourself.
Well, Doc, I appreciate you joining me today. I appreciate the time for this interview. And I most of all want to welcome you to the family. I am so proud to have you here. I know that you're going to be taking place in the 22-hour podcast coming up on February 22nd. You and I are going to talk to about this and how we can definitely reach out and help as many veterans and of our heroes as we can. How do people get a hold of you?
They can go on social media. They can, if they're interested in learning a little bit more of the membership, we're going to be opening it up soon in the next month or two. They can go to the tnowmethod.com, the tnowmethod.com. They can look at our website called transcendnow.biz. I'm assuming you'll put all these links in the bottom.
Yep.
Transcendnow.biz. There is a 12-minute video that they can watch that kind of goes a little bit more into what we do. And if those are people that want to know a little bit more, they can reach out that way.
And I think what we're going to do is as soon as we're done here, I'm going to play that 12-minute video for people to see a little bit more. We'll share that video so people can check it out and they can see what's going on. Once again, you can visit the Doc's landing page on our program, communitypayitforward.us, by going to communitypayitforward.us, transcend now. So, or up here in the, if you just simply go up here into the search here button, all you got to do is hit if you only hit one letter, it's easier. But if you hit, start hitting Dr. Phil or Phil, it's right there. It'll take you to his page. So it's very easy to find. Transcend Now. I greatly appreciate the time. And now, of course, you're tiny because this crazy system I use. So, but Doc, I want to thank you again for everything. This is great. We will be playing that 12-minute video. Anything that you have to share, please make sure that you come back and share it with us.
Thank you. And have a wonderful holiday. Thank you.
Thank you.
Hey, welcome back to Talking About Success. My next guest is Dr. Philip Agrios. He is an Amazon #1 bestseller. He's got this book called Life's One Law. We're going to talk about Life's One Law. Subtitle is Nature's Blueprint for Repeatable Success in Life and Business. So this is a universal principle that works everywhere. We're going to talk about that. And it's a discovery he made that shows how life really works, which is, I've always been asking that question forever. Is there one law that contains everything? So now we have it, I guess. And he shows how you can repeat success anywhere, anytime in your personal life, your business life, your relationships, and so on. So here's this wonderful book. You were a chiropractor, a doctor for many, many years.
Yes.
And then all of a sudden you decided not to do that anymore and to be a business and a life coach and to consult and work with people. What was the reason for that shift?
Well, exactly. My doctor's in chiropractic. However, I was also a functional medicine practitioner.
Oh, you were?
Yes.
I love functional medicine.
Oh, great.
Yeah.
My specialty was thyroid and autoimmune conditions.
Okay, cool.
And I realized that my business owners, who were my patients, were not only making major breakthroughs in their health, but they were also making major breakthroughs in their businesses because I was teaching them why they were sabotaging themselves. So I closed my practice, and now I work with clients worldwide in order to help them understand how to thrive in their personal life and their businesses. So I've taken my success techniques that I use for my patients and now use them for my clients so they can get the tremendous results as my patients once did.
Good. You say that everyone has a self-sabotaging trait.
Yes.
Talk about that.
Okay. So throughout the years of practicing with thousands of patients, I realized that everybody was sabotaging themselves in some way, not intentionally undermining themselves, but in the way humans do as to evolve or to dissolve. In other words, there's only two things we do. We protect and we grow, okay? And I realized that there was only one trait of ours that was behind both of them. And I called it the inborn sabotaging trait. The reason why is because we can't get rid of it. It's in us. It's actually essential to our existence. We cannot exist without it. And it brings conflict and challenges into our lives in order for us to grow and evolve or protect ourselves through fear. And it's our choice. So by doing that, I was able to use this with my clients so they can transform their business and personal lives. And I created a simple 9-question quiz that they can do to discover their sabotaging trait.
A couple of things I want to share and ask. So I think most people are under the belief system that says that their coaches would say, that the psychologists would say, that if you have a self-sabotaging trait, you need to remove it, get rid of it, release it. You're not saying that.
Can't get rid of it.
Can't get rid of it. You're saying it's just there.
It's like you can never get rid of fear because fear is the exact opposite to trust. So it's like me trying to get rid of my back hand without getting rid of my front hand. They're the opposite. So you never overcome and get rid of fear. You just switch it to a trust or whatever the opposite part of fear is. Because fear is essential.
Mm-hmm. So can you give me an example of a self-sabotaging trait?
So what happened was, for instance, I had a client who was, no matter how many techniques he used for closing and no matter how many times he went to different seminars, he had a really lousy closing rate. Mm-hmm. And what we found out was that his sabotaging trait, once he realized it, he was able to triple his closing rates in 2 weeks because it was behind why he was overly giving information to these customers or the potential clients, that it was more painful for them to hire him than to do nothing or to go to his competition.
Well, say more about that. What was his self-sabotage?
His self-sabotage.
And how did it express itself so the client would have that reaction?
So one of the self-sabotaging traits that was happening with him was that was called a director saboteur. Director saboteurs are scattered. They're all over the place. They don't finish things. They'll start with one thing. They can be 99% done, and then they go to something else, and now they have 15 things. They're all over the place. Chaos is their friend because it actually stimulates their brain. So when he was going in with his clients, he wasn't prepared. He was winging it. So once he was able to understand, he had to become more precise and really understand what he needed to do. His closing rates increased because he didn't have to feel that he had to overly communicate any longer. And we're able to balance that out pretty quickly.
I actually had a partner once who was a salesperson, and he would have a sale. He'd keep talking and talking. He'd lose the sale that he had.
Right.
So that's the kind of thing you're talking about.
Yeah, even with conversations, you're like, I got it 10 minutes ago. Can you please stop talking?
Yeah.
And I had a woman who was a single mom, very successful. And when we found out that her sabotaging trait was causing her to handle her business and personal lives in the opposite manner. In other words, I had to make sure that what she was doing in her personal life, she would do in her business and vice versa. And once she did the switch, not only did her business increase, but the relationship with her children, which was much more important, became more loving, became much stronger, and the stress within the household dropped dramatically. Because people think that your personal life and your business are separate. They're not. They're one. And the sabotaging trait affects both of them at the exact same time. So when you switch off your sabotaging trait, you instantly switch it off for both.
So how do you switch it off?
So the sabotage trait has an antidote, and I call it the antidote, okay? So when the antidote is the exact opposite to your sabotaging trait. So when you sabotage yourself, you go down the road of desperation, whether or not it's through anger, anxiety, being overwhelmed, stress, or the other hundreds of negative emotions. But when you use a sabotaging trait, it's impossible to go down the road of desperation, only the road of inspiration, so that your business and personal life balance out. So when people take the quiz, not only do they get their sabotaging trait, they also get their antidote for free. And once they get that, it's more of a basic concept for them, okay? But that's why I have mentoring programs and coaching programs and online courses to really get the basic and stronger meaning behind it so people see the tremendous results that they're having.
Mm-hmm. Now, you had me do this quiz on your cell phone.
Right.
So it's something people can do on their cell phone. They can do it on their computer.
Under a minute, right?
I was going to say, under a minute, number of many questions. Mm-hmm. And yet you accurately, or it accurately, figured out my self-sabotaging trait in a minute or less, and then the antidote for that. Let's talk about that a little bit.
Okay.
So you saw my answers, and I'm glad to do this publicly. So don't hold back. No, don't hold back.
Okay.
But I want people to get this, and so use me. And so talk about what my self-sabotaging trait was.
Okay.
We saw
yours was the
quiz.
communicator saboteur.
Communicator saboteur.
Now, what I'm about to tell you is not. This doesn't occur when, I'm not talking about the 85 to 90% of your life going well. I'm talking about when it's not going well.
When there's stress.
Yes, under stress. And it's called a personality stress sequence that people can also understand. But the communicator saboteur, you're a really good listener. You love to listen to people. You don't express too quickly. You like to process things first. And you're very loyal, but get on your bad side, it takes a long time for you to go back and connect with those people. And the communicator, one of your reasons why you sabotage yourself because you don't express yourself as much. So people don't know what you're thinking. So if you don't tell them what your thoughts and your feelings are, they're going to come up with their own. And that can create make you even more upset, and then disconnect further and not communicate. So one of the base fears is that you don't feel stupid or embarrassed. So that's why sometimes you have a hard time confronting things. So you just pull back and listen. And then maybe two days later, you come up and go, you know what about that thing that happened? And people go, I got past that. You didn't, because you had to take that time to process. Does that make sense?
Yeah. And the antidote is
to become more expressive to yourself and to others. It's both.
To become more aware of my own feelings and put them out. And thoughts.
Right.
What's going on.
Yeah. But it's very key that you said feelings, because the other two traits, there's a dominant trait, there's a mediator trait, and a sabotaging trait. Your dominant is more as a supplier. You love to give to people. But as you should feel is for you to start expressing, you don't feel that you have to overly give. Does that make sense?
Yeah. Yeah. I like the result.
And then that's why your life comes down to just one sentence. You focus on that, you can shift a majority of times to anything that comes your way and neutralize the stress that comes to you.
Cool. Very good. I was very accurate when I was reading what the little quiz told me. So if people want to get a hold of the quiz and take it themselves, which I highly recommend they do, where do they go? What do they do?
They can go to my website. It's called sabotagequiz.com. That's sabotagequiz.com. And you'll go down, you'll see a little orange button that says take the quiz. You click on it, and it'll give you your sabotage and trade and antidote for free.
Good. Now, I'm going to let you do that again at the end because I want people to get it, but I do have a couple more questions for you. So you have this book, Life's One Law. Could you just talk briefly about that?
Sure. Life's One Law is basically the law that I discovered of the universe. And how I discovered it was I was looking at my own life, wondering why things weren't going as well and my patience. But I realized that nature always bounced back from its own problems. Whether or not it was a forest fire and it grew back or other things, it always was evolving and growing for its own, own benefit. And then I realized that maybe I should look at the seasons. And as I looked at the seasons, I realized that there were actually 6 seasons, okay? And when I looked at each season has only one job. And when I looked at all 6 steps, I realized that those steps could handle any business or personal problem, and I actually guarantee that. And then when I realized further, I took both seasons, like say autumn and spring, and I realized, I said, they're the exact opposite. Autumn is breaking down and spring is building up. And I thought, what is that? And that's where the communicator saboteur, the communicator principle came in. Because the communication is not only building, it's also breaking down, because I have to break a fortune cookie in order to find out what's inside. So when I brought them together, I realized those are enzymes. Enzymes break down and enzymes build.
Right.
And then I looked at the other seasons and then realized there were actually only 3 principles of the universe: the director, the supplier, and the communicator. And I looked at the body, I looked at everything, and I realized those 3 words were the basis of how life governs the atoms to the galaxies, and how they govern us is through our 3 traits.
I liked it in the book because I read most of it before our interview about this metaphor of the tree, and the tree has to go through winter. I remember being really depressed, like the trees are like dead, but they're not, obviously.
Right.
And I remember one day I was having this out in the yard, and I was watching the wind blow the leaves off the tree, and I finally got Well, they have to let go, and then the leaves come down, they dissolve into the ground, they create nutrients for the next tree to, that same tree to come up and grow again. And that there is a process, there's a cycle. And you talk about the metaphor of us as humans, that we also need seasons where we let go, where we can be quiet and inward, and that these seasons can happen rapidly or they can happen over a period of time. But the idea of like when something is complete, allow it to be complete, go inside, let the new thing emerge, the spring emerge and so forth. And I thought it was very valuable. So I really encourage people to read your book. I think there's a lot of wisdom in there. I've always been looking for the unified field theory, and it's pretty much there. So one last thing I'd like you to talk about, because I was fascinated with this. I'm very much into the law of attraction. I was in the movie The Secret, as you may know. But you talk about the law of attraction. You use this metaphor of the hand, that when you're focused on the problem, but you share that with our listeners or viewers, if you will.
Right. So the law of attraction is really only 1/6 of it's actually harvest. It's me bringing in. See, what happens is when the tree goes from summer to harvest, it actually takes chlorophyll to itself to prepare itself for winter. It's not being selfish. It's actually being self-nourishing.
It's no longer creating an apple or
right. It has to survive.
Mm-hmm.
So the leaf is the one that's not going to happen. So that's acceptance. That's our acceptance. But the opposite season is what I call relinquish. So relinquish is right after summer. Excuse me, right after winter. Because winter is our imagination. We have to go within. That's why the leaves drop, so we can go within and see within the forest. We got to go in and tap into our wisdom, whether it's your higher power, talking to other people. That's your planning stage. Once you have your plan, then things start to heat up, right? And that's relinquish. And I call it relinquish because it's relinquishing. It's the giving season. It's when the flowers open up and become vulnerable. That's surrendering. Not surrendering as in vulnerability, but surrendering as into allowing the frozen water in winter to melt so the life-giving water can be released in order to connect in spring. So when we're looking at our hand, right, all I see is my front hand. I don't see the back hand, and that's the fear aspect we just talked about. I don't know because I'm so fearful that I don't realize that I have to start trusting. When I trust, I can't fear anymore. It's an impossible sabotaging trait. And when you look at your sabotaging trait and you don't know that there's an antidote, but as soon as you do the antidote, I've had people call me an hour later go, I can't believe how quick this is working for me. This is amazing. I said, yeah, because you cannot no longer go down the road of desperation. So that's where my focus was in realizing that it's our perception. It's how we view things, and it's up to us whether we want to take something that's a detriment or a benefit, or is it just is? And it really just is because it's based on our perception of our past experiences, which is really our reality.
What I took away from it, I'm curious if I'm wrong, because it was like I'm looking at this problem, and all I see is the problem.
Right.
But if I turn my hand around, I no longer see them.
Correct.
And that's where the solution lies.
Because you walk into the solution.
Exactly.
Because the problem and the solution happen at the exact same time. They have to. We live in a dichotomous world, left, right, up, down, in, out, yin, yang, right? So if you have a problem, there is a solution. So if you're focusing on the problem, you're actually giving life to it, right? Whatever you resist. So if I go into a river and I do this, I'm actually resisting the water and now creating a barrier. But now I can create stress, or I can create allowing things to happen and create my own destiny, right? So by you focusing on the past or the future, as we know are illusions, your present no longer exists. Your present now becomes your future and your past. And now your body actually thinks the thing that you're catastrophizing about or the thing that you're depressed about is actually happening. So now cortisol and all the damaging hormones happen because the body actually thinks you're actually going through it, and it has to survive. And your primitive brain has to kick in, and your frontal lobe of reasoning is just thrown out the door.
So once we understand the sabotage and the antidote, then that
right.
all that dissolves.
Once you understand it, you can. I remember I discovered this. I was on my living room floor, and when I looked at it, I was like, I looked to my left, was my past, and I went, all those things that ever happened to me was due to this sabotaging trait. And I looked to my right, which was my future, and I said, I can predict my future. Because every time I'm stressed, every time I feel resistant, it's because of my sabotaging trait. And when I found the antidote, I went, it can't be this simple. And then I went out, I found this 27 years ago. So I've been working on this for a long, long time, learning quantum physics on my own, everything else, and really understanding that, oh my God, it is that simple. We just make it complicated.
There you go. There you go. Well, anyone who wants your life to be more simple and therefore more abundant, more successful, less stress, the answer is here. It's in his quiz to find out your own stressors and antidotes and your own self-sabotage and all that stuff. And so you do consulting.
Yes.
You consult with individuals. You consult with organizations.
Yes. I do speaking, and I do one-on-one, or I do group coaching, or I have online courses that they can go through to really understand this more thoroughly.
Very good. You got it all.
Well, thank you so
I
much.
love it. So tell them your website one more time.
It's sabotagequiz.com. Again, sabotagequiz.com. You'll see the orange button. Click on it, and you'll be amazed.
Thank you very much.
Thank you so much.
joining
I
us.
appreciate it. Thank you so much.
All right. Okay, you know what to do now. So stick around. We have one more guest. We'll be right back after this message.
We are honored to invite you to the fourth annual Mission for Healthy Heroes on February 22nd, 2025. This day-long event is dedicated to serving those who serve us, focusing on the invisible battles our heroes face: mental health, homelessness, and reintegration challenges. Over the past 3 years, we've shared stories of resilience and hope. This year, we're amplifying our mission, spotlighting 4 incredible organizations that are making a real impact. The donations and sponsorships will go to helping these groups, providing critical resources to all of our heroes, both country and community. You can help too. Share your story, partner with us, or become a sponsor. Every contribution counts, whether it's time, funds, or spreading the word. Join us on February 22nd for a day of hope, healing, and change, because helping one hero means helping us all. For more information, visit the website or contact Zach Clayton at zach@communitypayitforward.us. Once again, that's Zach, Z-A-K, at communitypayitforward.us.